Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Ka-Pow Comics Best of 2025. We are into the final stretch right now. 3 remaining, and number 3, it's another DC book. It's another Batman book. It is Dark Patterns. Batman Dark Patterns. And I have loved this book from the moment I started reading it, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why it has maintained its quality throughout, and I've absolutely fell in love with it and put it as high as I have. First off, it is the Dan Waters of it all. He is a phenomenal writer, barring a couple of ill-advised little jaunts into the world of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as an example. I have loved damn near everything he's done. He's appeared on my best of the year list on multiple occasions. I wish I liked Nightwing more because I've heard a lot of good stuff about it, but I'm not into the character that much, I'm afraid. But this is another one of him firing on all cylinders and absolutely nailing what he set out to do. What he set out to do for me is, well, as far as I'm concerned, my interpretation of it is have a little bit of fun with the idea of slightly short form storytelling, but in a larger scope. And I've said already in this countdown of the best of the year, particularly the Matt Fraction Batman, that I think comic books leaning more into this idea of you should be able to pick up an issue of a comic book and get a story. That's a good thing. They should be doing this more often. This is not quite that. It's a series of very short stories tied together. Each one is only 3 issues long, which is still pretty darn short for contemporary DC comic books, let me tell you that for nothing. But every single one is brilliantly done. Every single one has a solid beginning, middle, and end. And also, when we got to the end of the third part of it, it very heavily implied that there was going to be a tie-in. Something that would tie them all together, should we say. And when we do get to the end and we get that fantastic roundup, I will say that it still works on its own as a 3-issue story. I think every single bit of it could work on its own. But beautifully, when the collection comes out, I can't wait. I've actually already read the entire lot in one go, and it scans brilliantly. It is a very, very fantastic look at Batman as a detective. Excuse me. And as I've said, I want more of that in my Batman comic books. But it also is dealing with an almost horror-filled extravaganza. It is a different type of horror than previous stuff I've talked about, but I don't mind that. Horror is a broad church. And I feel that this leaning into the more metropolitan urban horror of it is brilliantly done. The closest thing that it reminded me of is the Candyman movies, the first one and the most recent one, as the two I'd go to for this. Now, I'm not saying it's like dealing with matters of race and policing and redlining and all that kind of stuff, but it is still dealing with class to a certain degree, and the very, very tightly controlled but still city-wide or larger area kind of horror that it covers. I wouldn't be surprised if Wards was a fan of Candyman, shall we say. I don't want to draw a direct line, but I think there's enough DNA shared there that it works really effectively. There's also the fact that, and this might be a personal thing, but the idea that Batman, although very much a crime fighter, very much in the vein of cops and in favour of the police to a certain degree, this one feels a little bit more like he's dealing with harm and trauma rather than just, well, you broke the law, so therefore you are bad. Don't get me wrong, I don't expect Batman to change entirely into my ideal of somebody who goes out and tries to right wrongs, but it's nice to see a contemporary writer just play around the edges with it a little bit. Now, the other thing that makes it absolutely work 100% is Hayden Sherman. Hayden Sherman is an artist that I have long admired. There's a whole bunch of stuff they've done which I kind of missed first time around because it ended up being far more popular than I expected, considering the name Hayden Sherman didn't really mean anything to me years and years ago. But I've since gone back and I've picked up a lot of stuff with that name on it, and every single bit of it has impressed me. The thing that they do most effectively in this and other stuff like Absolute Wonder Woman and what was the other one? Into the Unbeing, actually, another one of the recent ones they've been involved in, is their total and utter control of form. I've mentioned this in a couple of reviews. The Plague House one very, very nicely understands how you can use the form and the medium of a comic book but still do something exciting with it. And one thing Hayden does really well is by using smaller panels within a large piece of artwork, they just show a fantastic movement of time and story in still imagery. But in this particular one, it is the city that they do so brilliantly. Not only are they masters of three-point perspective, they get how to do gothic realism when it comes to Gotham City, but they also manage to use the city to be intimidating in its own way. It looms in terrifying manner in this book throughout. This particular ventriloquist story where there's one particular building, and how it's designed and how the space is used within the form of narrative storytelling within the comic book. I mean, there's nothing else really like it out there. There's people who can have some fun with it. J.H. Williams III is another one I'd say is very, very good at it, but when it comes to just an absolute mastery of the form, I've got to be honest, Hayden Sherman can't be beat. Absolutely love it, and you should totally check it out. Only 2 more to go, though. Let's head towards Christmas Eve. So, that's it for me for now. Until I see you all again, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!